The shuttle doors opened, and Vance took her first step onto Throne Station. She was 17 years old, 5 feet 4 inches tall, and weighed 120 pounds. By human standards, she was ordinary. By galactic standards, she was pathetic. The Galactic Military Academy rose before her like a mountain of metal and glass. Cadets from a dozen species walked past her without a second glance. A warrior, 8 feet tall with green scales and yellow eyes, nearly knocked her down with his shoulder. He did not apologize. He did not even notice. Picked up her bag and kept walking. She had read everything about this place before coming. The Academy trained the finest soldiers in the Galactic Compact. Its graduates commanded fleets and conquered worlds. For 300 years, no human had ever been accepted. Was the first. She knew why the other species looked at her with confusion or disgust. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only made contact with alien life 15 years ago. They had no great warriors, no powerful weapons, no history of conquest. The other species saw them as children who had stumbled into a room full of adults. The orientation hall was massive. Hundreds of cadets stood in rows, sorted by species. Found the spot marked for humans. She stood there alone. A voice boomed across the hall. "Welcome to the Academy. I am Senior Instructor Or." The speaker was a species with 4 arms and skin like gray stone. Each of his hands could crush a human skull without effort. He looked across the cadets with cold black eyes. "You are here because your governments believe you are the best," he said. "You are wrong. You are nothing. Over the next 3 years, we will break you down and build you into soldiers. Most of you will fail. Those who remain will earn the right to serve the compact." His eyes frowned. She felt the weight of his gaze like a physical thing. "Some of you," he continued, "should not be here at all." Laughter rippled through the hall, kept her face still. She had expected this. She had prepared for it. The first week proved harder than she had imagined. The strength tests came first. Cadets had to lift weighted blocks while instructors recorded their scores. The lifted blocks that weighed 2,000 pounds. The eye lifted even more. They whose bodies were made of living crystal simply absorbed the blocks into their mass and carried them like they weighed nothing. Lifted 150 pounds. It was her maximum. The instructor marked her score and said nothing, but his silence spoke clearly enough. The speed tests were worse. Though a species with 4 legs and bodies built for running completed the course in 40 seconds, finished in 3 minutes, she was dead last. The endurance tests destroyed her. Cadets had to run until they collapsed. The other species ran for hours, lasted 45 minutes before her legs gave out. She lay on the track, gasping for air, while the others continued without her. By the end of the first week, she had the lowest scores in the Academy's history. Found her in the mess hall on the 7th day. He was the son of the High Marshal, the most powerful military leader in the compact. He was tall even for his species, with scales that shone like emeralds and teeth like knives. He had the highest scores in every physical test. He sat down across from while she ate her food alone. "Human," he said, "I want to understand something." Looked up at him, "Yes." "Why are you here?" He leaned forward and she could smell the meat on his breath. "You cannot fight, you cannot run, you cannot lift. Your bones are hollow. Your skin tears like paper. A child of my species could kill you without trying." Took another bite of her food. "Is there a question in there?" His eyes narrowed. He reached across the table and grabbed her arm. His claws dug into her skin, not enough to draw blood, but enough to hurt. Did not pull away. "I am asking," he said slowly, "why your weak species thinks it belongs among warriors." "Let go of my arm." "Answer my question." Met his eyes. She was afraid. She would have been stupid not to be afraid, but she did not let the fear reach her face. "I am here," she said, "because I was accepted just like you." Squeezed harder. Now the blood came running down her arm in thin red lines. The other cadets in the mess hall watched. None of them moved to help. "You were accepted because your government begged," said. "You are here as a symbol, nothing more, a token, a joke." He released her arm and stood up. "Stay out of my way, human. The next time I touch you, I will not be so gentle." He walked away. His friends followed, laughing. Looked at her arm. The wounds were shallow. They would heal. She pulled a cloth from her pocket and wrapped it around the cuts. Then she finished her meal. That night, while the other cadets slept, walked to the tactical simulation chambers. These rooms held computers that could recreate any battle in galactic history. Cadets were supposed to use them during the day under instructor supervision. No one used them at night. Used them every night. She loaded a simulation of the Battle of S, a famous engagement where a small fleet defeated a force 10 times its size. She studied the commander's decisions, the movement of ships, the timing of attacks. She ran the simulation again and again, each time noticing something new. By morning, she understood the battle better than most instructors. She returned to her room as the sun rose over Throne Station. Her body ached. Her arm still bled through the cloth. Her test scores were the worst in Academy history. But Vance was not worried about test scores. 2 days later, Apex Commander X arrived at the Academy. He was a legend among legends, a general who had never lost a battle in 200 years of warfare. His scales were gray with age, but his eyes were sharp as blades. He had come to observe the annual war games. The cadets assembled in the main hall to greet him. X walked slowly past their ranks, examining each one. When he reached the end of the line, his eyes fell on. She was the smallest person in the hall, the weakest, the most fragile. X looked at her for a long moment, then he moved on. But had seen something in his eyes, not contempt, not mockery. Curiosity. The war games were the Academy's oldest tradition. For 5 days, cadet squads would fight across a simulated planet, capturing territory and eliminating each other until only one squad remained. The winners earned glory, high rankings, and the attention of military commanders across the galaxy. The losers earned nothing but shame. Squad assignments appeared on the screens throughout the station. Found her name at the very bottom of the list. Squad Omega. She knew what that meant. Every Academy class had a Squad Omega. It was where they put the cadets no one wanted, the failures, the broken, the ones expected to lose in the first hour. Found her squad in Training Room 12. There were 4 of them in total. Al was an eye who had lost his lower right arm in a training accident. The other eye called him half-blood now, a terrible insult among his people. He sat in the corner with his remaining 3 arms crossed over his chest, staring at nothing. Crystalline was a whose body had cracked during an explosion simulation. Her silicon form, once smooth and beautiful, now had deep fractures running through it like lightning scars. She moved slowly and carefully, afraid that any hard impact might shatter her completely. Whisper was a species known for their speed and grace, but Whisper had been born with a defect in her legs. She could not run as fast as others of her kind. Among this made her worthless. And then there was the fragile human. "So," Al said without looking up, "this is Squad Omega, the garbage pile." "We are going to lose," Crystalline said. Her voice sounded like glass scraping against stone. "Everyone knows it. Why should we even try?" Whisper said nothing. She simply lowered her head. Looked at her squad. She saw their broken bodies and their broken spirits. She saw what the Academy saw, 4 failures waiting to be eliminated. But she also saw something else. "The war games start tomorrow," she said. "We have 12 hours. I suggest we use them." The simulation began at dawn. 20 squads spawned across a virtual planet with mountains, forests, rivers, and plains. Each squad started with basic weapons, supplies, and a small base. The goal was simple: survive, expand, and destroy your enemies. Squad Alpha, led by, spawned in the northern mountains. They had the best position, the best weapons, and the best soldiers. Everyone expected them to win. Squad Omega spawned in a swamp on the eastern edge of the map. It was the worst possible location. The ground was soft, the visibility was poor, and there was nothing of value nearby. Al looked at their surroundings and laughed bitterly. Even the computer wants us to fail. Good, said. The others stared at her. No one will come here, she explained. No one will waste time attacking a squad in a swamp. That gives us time. Time for what? Crystalline asked. Time to watch. For the first 6 hours, Squad Omega did not move from their swamp, sat with her eyes closed, listening to the battle reports that came through their communication system. Other squads clashed in the mountains and forests. 3 squads were eliminated in the first hour. 2 more fell by noon. The other members of Squad Omega grew restless. We should be fighting, Al said. We should be doing something. We are doing something, replied. We are learning. She had been studying the other squads since the games began. She tracked their movements through the reports. She noted their tactics, their patterns, their weaknesses. She built a map in her mind of where every squad was and where they would go next. By evening, she understood the battlefield better than anyone. Squad 7 is moving toward the river crossing, she said. They will arrive in 2 hours. Squad 12 is following them, hopping to ambush them at the bridge. But Squad 12 does not know that Squad 3 is circling behind them. How do you know all this? Whisper asked. It was the first time she had spoken. I listened, said. I watched the patterns. Every squad has habits. They repeat themselves without knowing it. If you pay attention, you can predict what they will do next. She stood up and looked at her squad. Squad 3 will destroy Squad 12 at the river. Then Squad 7 will attack Squad 3 while they are tired from the fight. But Squad 7's left flank is weak. Their commander always ignores his left side. If we move now, we can reach the forest east of the river before the battle ends. When Squad 7 wins, they will be exhausted and careless. We will be waiting. For the first time, her squad looked at her with something other than despair. They moved. The swamp was difficult terrain, but had planned their route carefully. They avoided the deep mud and the dangerous creatures that lived in the water. They moved slowly and quietly, leaving no trail. By midnight, they reached the forest. From the trees, they watched Squad 7 celebrate their victory over Squad 3. The warriors laughed and boasted while their commander counted their supplies. Waited. She watched the guards and noted when they changed shifts. She saw that the commander had placed all his sentries facing west, toward the center of the map. He expected attacks to come from strong squads. He did not expect an attack from the east, from the worthless Squad Omega. Now whispered. They struck at the moment of the guard change, when confusion was highest. Al used his 3 remaining arms to disable 2 sentries before they could raise an alarm. Crystalline moved through the shadows, her cracked body actually helping her blend into the broken patterns of moonlight. Whisper, despite her slow legs, was still faster than any human, and she reached the enemy commander before he could grab his weapon. The battle lasted 4 minutes. Squad 7 was eliminated. By morning, the academy was talking about Squad Omega. Impossible, the instructors said. They must have cheated. But the simulation recorded everything. There was no cheating. There was only a human girl who saw what others could not see. In the observation deck above the simulation chamber, Apex Commander X watched the replay of Squad Omega's attack. He watched it 3 times. Then he leaned forward in his chair. On the battlefield, received the news about Squad 7. His yellow eyes narrowed with fury. Squad 7 had been his allies. He had planned to join forces with them for the final battle. Now they were gone, destroyed by the weakest squad in the games. By the garbage pile. By the fragile human girl. Find them, ordered his squad. Find Squad Omega. I want to eliminate them personally." The hunt began, but was already 3 moves ahead. She had known would come for them. She had counted on it. The Proud would abandon his defensive position in the mountains to chase a personal grudge. He would leave himself open. All she had to do was survive long enough to spring the trap. In the swamp where they had started had left something behind. A gift a surprise he would not see coming until it was too late. She looked at her squad and smiled. "Now the real game begins," she said. For 2 days, hunted Squad Omega across the simulated planet. He was the best tracker in the academy. His senses could detect heat signatures from half a mile away. His squad was the fastest, the strongest, and the most experienced. Every other squad fled when they saw Squad Alpha coming. But he could not find the human girl. Led her squad through terrain that no one else would use. They traveled through poison swamps, across unstable ice fields, and under waterfalls that masked their heat signatures. She had studied the simulation's map for weeks before the games began. She knew every hidden path, every forgotten cave, every piece of ground that the other squads considered worthless. While Searched watched, she watched his squad's movements and learned their patterns. She listened to their communications and heard their frustrations. She counted their supplies and calculated how long they could keep hunting before they needed to resupply. And she set her trap. On the 3rd day, Squad Omega stopped running. Led her squad into a narrow canyon between 2 mountain ridges. The walls were high and steep. There was only one way in and one way out. Any military commander would call it a death trap. "This is madness," Al said. "We will be cornered here." "Yes," agreed, "we will." "Then why are we here?" Looked up at the canyon walls. She had spent hours studying the geological data in the simulation. She knew exactly what these rocks were made of. She knew exactly how much force they could take before they crumbled. "Do you trust me?" she asked. Al was silent for a long moment, then he nodded. "I do not know why, but yes, I trust you." "Then help me prepare." They worked through the night, directed them to place small charges at specific points along the canyon walls. The charges were too weak to hurt anyone. They were not meant to kill. They were meant to break. By morning, the trap was ready. And so was. His squad appeared at the canyon entrance just after dawn. 12 warriors, fully armed, with at their head. They had tracked Squad Omega's trail to this dead end. Laughed when he saw where had led her squad. "A canyon with no escape," he said. "I expected better from you, human. Did you think I would not find you?" "No," said. She stood in the center of the canyon alone. Her squad was hidden behind rocks further back. "I knew you would find me. I wanted you to find me." His laughter faded. He studied her face looking for fear. He found none. "You wanted this?" he asked. "You have been chasing me for 2 days," said. "Your squad has not eaten properly. Your supplies are low. You left your defensive position in the mountains to hunt a personal grudge. 3 other squads have moved into your former territory while you were gone." His eyes narrowed. He had not known about the other squads. He had been too focused on his hunt. "None of that matters," he growled. "In 5 minutes your squad will be eliminated. Then I will return to deal with the others." "You have 12 soldiers," continued. "I have 3. Your soldiers are stronger, faster, and better armed. In a direct fight you would destroy us in seconds." "Then you admit you have lost?" "No," his voice was calm. "I admit that I cannot win a direct fight, so I will not fight one." She pressed a button on her wrist device. The charges exploded. The canyon walls crumbled exactly as had calculated. Tons of rock fell between and his soldiers, separating him from his squad. The dust cloud blinded everyone. When it cleared, stood alone on one side of a massive pile of rubble. His 12 soldiers stood on the other side, unable to reach him. "Clever," admitted, "but foolish. Even alone I can kill you with one hand." "You could," agreed, But you will not. And why is that? Walked toward him. She was small, fragile. Her bones would snap if he grabbed her. Every instinct in her body screamed at her to run, but she kept walking until she stood directly in front of the massive warrior. Because I know about your father, she said quietly. Froze. I know about the supply shipments that go missing every month from the Third Fleet. I know about the encrypted communications that are hidden inside routine logistics reports. I know about the credits that appear in accounts on neutral worlds. Scales had turned pale. His hands shook at his sides. Your father, the High Marshal, has been selling military secrets to the enemies of the Compact, said. I found the pattern 3 weeks ago while everyone else was running strength tests and speed trials. I spent my nights analyzing data instead of sleeping, and I found everything. You are lying, whispered. You know I am not. Reached into her pocket and pulled out a small data chip. She held it up for him to see. This chip contains all the evidence, transmission logs, financial records, enough to destroy your father's career and sentence him to death for treason. She paused. Enough to destroy your family name forever. Stared at the chip. His whole body trembled with rage and fear. What do you want? He asked. Surrender, said simply. Withdraw from the war games, take your squad and leave. And if I refuse, if I take that chip from your dead hands? There are copies, said, hidden in places you will never find. If anything happens to me, those copies will be released automatically. Your father will be exposed. Your family will fall. She met his eyes without blinking. You fight with your body, she said. I fight with everything else. You are stronger than me, but I have already beaten you. The silence stretched between them. Then did something that no one in the academy had ever seen. He knelt before Vance. He pressed his clawed hand to the ground in the ancient gesture of surrender. I yield, he said. On the other side of the rubble, his soldiers heard his words. They could not believe it. Their commander, the son of the High Marshal, the greatest warrior in their class, had yielded to a human. But the simulation recorded everything. Surrender was official. Squad Alpha was eliminated. In the observation deck, Apex Commander X rose from his seat. He had watched thousands of battles in his 200 years. He had seen strength defeat strength countless times. But he had never seen this. A fragile human girl had brought down the mightiest cadet in the academy without throwing a single punch. She had used patience instead of power, intelligence instead of force. She had turned her weakness into her greatest weapon. X looked at the small figure on the screen. Remarkable, he whispered. Below in the canyon, watched rise and walk back to his squad. She had not lied about the data chip. Everything she had told him was true. She had indeed found evidence of his father's treason. But she had not reported it. Not yet. That decision would come later when the time was right. For now, she had a war game to win. Squad Omega, she said into her communicator. Move out. We have 2 more days and 6 more squads to eliminate. Her team emerged from their hiding spots. They looked at her with new eyes, not pity, not confusion. Respect. Al approached her and placed his 3 hands on her shoulders. You are the strangest commander I have ever served, he said, but I am glad to serve you. Smiled. Then let us finish this. The alarm came without warning. Was studying the battlefield map when red lights began flashing across the simulation chamber. A sound like thunder rolled through the station, and the ground shook beneath her feet. The simulation froze. The virtual planet disappeared. The chamber lights flickered and died. What is happening? Crystalline asked. Then the voice came through every speaker on the station. Attention! This is not a drill. Throne Station is under attack. All military personnel report to defense positions immediately. Felt her blood turn cold. The War Games simulation had shut down, but the cadets were still in the simulation chamber, deep in the lower levels of the station. The adult officers were in the command center, 3 levels above. Between them were the civilian quarters, where thousands of non-military personnel lived and worked. And somewhere in the station, enemies had broken through. The cadets gathered in the chamber, confused and frightened. Some were still in their simulation gear. Others had dropped their weapons when the simulation ended. Without the virtual reality overlay, they could see each other clearly for the first time in days. There were 62 cadets remaining. Most of them were young, barely trained, and had never faced real combat. Screams echoed from somewhere above. "Raiders," someone said. "Raiders from the Silence Expanse." Knew about the Silence. They were pirates and slavers who lived in the empty space between star systems. They attacked without mercy and took whatever they wanted. They had not raided a major station in decades. Until now. Another explosion shook the station. The lights flickered again. "The command center is locked down," a cadet reported. "The officers cannot reach us. The defensive systems are offline. They were disabled for the war games." "We are trapped," I said. "We are going to die." The cadets began to panic. Some shouted orders that no one followed. Others sat frozen with fear. The strongest among them, the warriors who had dominated the physical tests, looked around for someone to tell them what to do. Climbed onto a platform in the center of the chamber. "Listen to me," she said. Her voice was quiet, but something in it made the others stop. 62 cadets turned to look at the small human girl standing above them. "The officers cannot help us," she said. "The station defenses are down. The raiders are between us and the command center. If we do nothing, they will reach the civilian quarters. Thousands of people will die or be taken as slaves." She looked across the frightened faces before her. "Or we can stop them." "How?" someone demanded. "We are cadets. We have training weapons, not real ones. We have no defenses, no support, no plan." "We have this chamber," said. "We have the simulation equipment. We have 62 soldiers who have spent the past 3 days fighting a war." She paused. "And we have me." The silence stretched. Then Al stepped forward. His 3 arms were folded across his chest, and his stone-like face showed no fear. "I follow her," he said. "She led Squad Omega against impossible odds. She defeated without a weapon. If anyone can get us through this, it is her." Crystalline moved to stand beside him. "I follow her too." Whisper joined them, and I. One by one, other cadets stepped forward. Some were from squads that had defeated in the games. Some were cadets who had mocked her during training. But they all remembered what they had seen. They remembered the human girl who turned weakness into strength. Even stepped forward. "I follow her," he said quietly. Nodded. There was no time for speeches or plans. Every second they waited, the raiders moved closer to the civilians. "The simulation chamber has real power systems," she said. "The training weapons can be modified to fire real charges if we bypass the safety limiters. I need every engineer to start working on that now." A dozen cadets moved to obey. "The chamber doors are reinforced against accidents. They will hold against raiders for at least 10 minutes. That gives us time to prepare. I need the cadets to form a wall at the main entrance. Your bodies can absorb energy weapons." Crystalline gathered the other and moved toward the doors. "The air vents connect to every level of the station. They are small enough to move through them. I need scouts in those vents, watching enemy movements and reporting back." Whisper led the other toward the ventilation access points. Everyone else formed defensive positions. Use the simulation platforms as cover. When the raiders break through, we hold them here as long as possible. The cadets moved. For the first time in their training, they worked together. Species that had competed against each other now fought side by side. The barriers of race and rank fell away. There was only the mission. Watched the chamber transform into a fortress. 10 minutes later, the raiders reached their doors. The first explosion blew a hole in the entrance. Raider soldiers poured through, expecting to find frightened cadets cowering in corners. Instead, they found a wall of living crystal that absorbed their weapons' fire. Behind the wall, modified training weapons fired real charges. Raiders fell. The battle lasted 2 hours. Coordinated everything. She moved through the chamber, giving orders, adjusting positions, sending reinforcements where they were needed. She had no weapon. She was too weak to fight. But she saw the entire battle in her mind, like a simulation she had run 1,000 times. Raiders flanking from the left, Whisper reported through the communicator. "I'll take 3 soldiers and block the left corridor," ordered. "Wall is cracking in Sector 4, another voice reported. "Rotate the fresh crystals to the front, damaged ones to the rear. Keep the wall solid." Again and again, she made decisions in seconds that would have taken other commanders minutes to consider. She predicted the raiders' movements before they made them. She found weaknesses in their tactics and exploited them. But the raiders kept coming. There were too many of them. The cadets were running out of power for their modified weapons. The wall was fracturing. Exhaustion was setting in. A raider broke through the line and charged toward a group of wounded cadets. Crystalline moved to intercept, but she was too slow. Her cracked body could not move fast enough. Stepped in front of the raider. She had no weapon. She had no armor. She was 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighed 120 pounds. The raider swung his blade. Dodged, the blade cut across her side instead of through her chest. Blood poured from the wound. The pain was incredible, but she had bought 1 second. In that second, Al arrived and crushed the raider with his 3 powerful arms. He caught her as she fell. "You are injured." "Keep fighting," she gasped. "Do not stop." She pressed her hand against the wound and stood up. Blood ran through her fingers and dripped onto the floor, but she kept giving orders. She kept coordinating the defense. She kept her cadets alive. 4 hours after the attack began, the compact fleet arrived. Warships surrounded the station. Marines flooded through the corridors. The remaining raiders were captured or killed. The battle was over. When the rescue teams reached the simulation chamber, they found 62 cadets still standing, wounded, exhausted, but alive. They had held the line. They had protected the civilians. And at their center, they found a human girl collapsed in a pool of her own blood, still whispering orders through a communicator that had run out of power an hour ago. The medical team rushed her to emergency care. The doctors said she should have died. The blood loss alone should have killed her. But somehow she had kept going, kept fighting, kept leading, long after her body should have failed. Word spread across the station. The cadets had held. The civilians were safe. And the one who had led them, the one who had turned 62 frightened children into an army, was the fragile human girl that everyone had mocked. In the command center, Apex Commander X listened to the reports. He heard about the modified weapons and the crystal walls. He heard about the ventilation scouts and the defensive positions. He heard about every decision had made during those 4 impossible hours. When the reports were finished, the old warrior closed his eyes. "She saved them all," he said quietly. "She was bleeding to death and she saved them all." He opened his eyes and made a decision. "I want to see her," he said, "as soon as she wakes." Woke in a white room that smelled of medicine and clean air. Her side ached where the blade had cut her. Bandages wrapped around her torso, tight and secure. A machine beside her bed beeped softly, tracking her heartbeat. She was alive. For a long moment she simply lay there, staring at the ceiling. Her body felt heavy, like someone had filled her bones with lead. But her mind was clear. She remembered everything. The alarm, the raiders, the battle, the blood. The door opened, and a medical officer entered. She was with gentle eyes and a soft voice. "You are awake," she said. "Good. The commander wishes to see you." What commander? Apex Commander X tried to sit up. Pain shot through her side and she gasped. Slowly, the medical officer said. You lost a great deal of blood. Your wound required 17 stitches. You should not have survived. My squad. All alive, all safe. They have been asking about you. Closed her eyes and let out a breath she had not known she was holding. An hour later, she walked into the academy's great hall. She moved slowly, carefully, one hand pressed against her bandaged side. The medical officer had offered her a mobility chair. She had refused. She would walk into this room on her own feet. The hall was full. Every cadet in the academy stood in rows along the walls. Officers lined the front of the room. Military leaders from across the compact filled the elevated seats. News drones hovered near the ceiling, recording everything. And at the center of it all, behind a long table, sat the tribunal. 5 senior officers who would decide what happened next. The attack had been a disaster. Someone had to be blamed. Some voices in the military were already pointing at the human girl who had coordinated the defense. Perhaps she had been involved with the raiders. Perhaps she had sabotaged the station defenses. Perhaps humanity could not be trusted. Walked down the center aisle toward the tribunal. She felt every eye in the room following her. Cadet Vance, the lead tribunal officer said, you stand before this tribunal to answer questions regarding the raid on Throne Station. Do you understand? Yes, said. You took command of the cadets during the attack. You modified training weapons into real weapons. You organized a military defense without authorization from superior officers. Yes. Do you have anything to say for yourself? Looked at the tribunal. 5 powerful officers who had fought wars and commanded fleets. Behind them, hundreds of people waited to hear what she would say. She thought about defending herself. She thought about explaining her decisions, justifying her actions, arguing for her innocence. Instead, she simply told the truth. 62 cadets were trapped in that chamber, she said. Thousands of civilians were in danger. The officers could not reach us. The defenses were down. Someone had to act. So you decided to act, the officer said. Yes. Despite having no authority, despite being the weakest cadet in the academy, despite having no combat experience. Yes. The tribunal officer leaned forward. Why? Met his eyes, because no one else did. Silence filled the hall. Then a door at the side of the room opened, and Apex Commander X walked in. He was old even by standards. His scales had faded to gray. His movements were slow and deliberate, but his eyes were sharp as they had always been, and when he entered a room, every warrior present stood. He walked past the rows of cadets, past the lines of officers, past the tribunal itself. He stopped directly in front of Vance. She was small, he was massive. She had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. For a long moment, he simply looked at her. Then Apex Commander X, the most decorated warrior in history, the general who had never lost a battle in 200 years, lowered himself to the floor. He pressed his forehead to the ground. He bowed. The hall went completely silent. No one breathed. No one moved. They could not believe what they were seeing. X rose slowly and turned to face the tribunal. I have fought for 200 years, he said. I have seen strength in all its forms. I have watched muscles lift mountains and claws tear through armor. I have commanded fleets that conquered star systems and armies that crushed rebellions. His voice filled the hall like thunder. But I have never seen strength like this. He gestured toward. This human girl has no scales, no claws, no armor. Her bones are fragile. Her body is weak. By every measure the galaxy uses to judge worth, she is nothing. He paused. And yet she held this station when stronger soldiers froze with fear. She led 62 cadets against impossible odds and lost not a single one. She took a blade meant for others and kept fighting while her blood poured onto the floor. His eyes swept across the tribunal. You ask who is to blame for this attack. I will tell you. The blame belongs to the raiders who struck us. The blame belongs to our own arrogance that left our defenses down during games. The blame does not belong to the cadet who saved thousands of lives. He turned back to, They have a word for warriors like her. We call them heart-strong. It means one whose spirit cannot be broken, no matter what the body suffers. It is the highest honor we can give. He placed his clawed hand over his chest. Vance is heart-strong. She has earned my respect and my loyalty. If this tribunal moves against her, they move against me. The tribunal officers looked at each other. They looked at X. They looked at the hundreds of witnesses filling the hall. Then they dismissed all charges. The ceremony that followed was brief but meaningful. Was promoted to tactical specialist, the youngest in Academy history. Her squad received honors for their role in the defense, even stood and applauded when her name was called. But the most important moment came afterward. She stood alone on an observation deck looking out at the stars. Her side still ached. Her body still felt heavy, but her mind was already moving forward, already planning, already preparing for what came next. Footsteps approached behind her. She turned to find X standing there. You did not seem surprised when I bowed, he said. I was surprised, she admitted, but I did not want to show it. The old warrior laughed. It was a rough sound, like stones grinding together. You are remarkable, he said. In 200 years I have never met anyone like you. Looked back at the stars. What happens now? That depends on you. X moved to stand beside her. There are other academies across the compact. Other postings where humans are mocked and dismissed, other places where your species needs to prove itself. He handed her a data tablet. On it was a message from Earth Command. They were asking for her help. Read the message slowly. Other humans were struggling just as she had struggled. They were being called weak, fragile, worthless. They needed someone to show them what strength really meant. She looked up at X. I am one person, she said. I cannot change the entire galaxy. No, he agreed. But you can change one person at a time. You changed your squad. You changed the cadets who fought beside you. You changed. He smiled, showing his ancient teeth. You even changed me. Looked down at the tablet again. Then she looked out at the stars, at the endless darkness filled with countless worlds and countless species who believed that strength meant muscles and claws and scales. They were wrong. Strength meant getting up when you fell. Strength meant fighting when you were afraid. Strength meant protecting others even when you were bleeding. Strength meant never giving up, no matter how fragile your body was. Vance smiled. Then she started planning.